Name's Conrad Harrigan. Cross my family. We shake the right hands. That's their place. Really?
Harry is seated between two groups in the opening scene of MobLand, attempting to help them come to an agreement. All they need to do to amend their long-standing conflict is to shake hands regardless of whether they agree or disagree. Conrad Harrigan advises Harry to choose the second alternative, which is to murder them all, after considerable discussion and failure to reach a consensus on the parameters.
30 years.
A ceasefire, even if it were achieved, would only be a short-term fix and the issue will just worsen the following time. As a result, both sides are shut down and their issues vanish along with them. This incident establishes the level of cruelty that Harry and the Harrigans are capable of, which they must uphold in order to preserve their dominance, especially given that the Stevensons are their competitors. This brings Conrad and Harry's night to a close, but Eddie, Conrad's grandson, is just getting started on the opposite side of town. He is obviously not meant to be out partying with Tommy Stevenson. Eddie, at least, is unfazed by the fact that they would either be skinned alive or murdered for this. They go inside a pub in Mayfair, where Eddie stabs the other man, starting a little altercation. Tommy was being pursued by Richie Stevenson's guys as he was cleaning up this mess. All the alarms were raised when he discovered that the youngster had last been spotted with Eddie Harrigan in a Mayfair tavern. Kevin is aware that Eddie is lying when he says he didn't meet Tommy, so he calls Harry once more to inform him that there is yet another problem that has to be cleaned up. Harry must deal with his own family issues. In the meanwhile, John appears to want them to get help from therapists and work out their marital problems. The possibility of a gang fight arises when Tommy is nowhere to be found, but nobody wants to get involved. Harry is instructed to sit down and talk with Richie in order to establish a basis for cooperation. Harry phones Conrad as soon as he leaves Moody's to ask him if they ought to murder Richie and his guys at this very minute. Because when all factors are taken into account, the likelihood of a conflict is imminent. His oldest son, Brendan, younger son, Kevin, daughter, Serafina, the family lawyer, O'Hara, and Conrad's closest companion, Archie, take part in the family meeting that Conrad calls to explore this economic opportunity. He makes an appearance earlier in the episode, meeting with Conrad to talk about his strategy, but by the time he arrives for the meeting, mistrust has already been established. According to Maeve, Archie dealt with the fire, a group engaged in the fentanyl trade, behind Conrad's back. When Conrad brings up the fentanyl intentions at the meeting, Archie cuts him off, stating that maybe the time is off and that they should talk about this a bit more before acting. Conrad is sufficiently convinced of all the accusations made against the man by this time, and the meeting concludes when he shoots Archie in the chest. Because of Maeve's concerns, Conrad kills his closest buddy, shocking everyone in the process. Conrad regrets killing Archie in a master bedroom, but Maeve reassures him that he made the right decision. Conrad also questions whether they should proceed with the fentanyl venture, and Maeve supports his choice. After getting rid of Archie's body, Harry goes home and remembers when he first saw Kevin in juvie. Under the command of DS Ivan Fisk, armed police storm in and arrest Harry for interrogation about Archie. His research into Tommy's location is plainly hampered by this, and Richie seems to be aware of this. Harry and O'Hara speculate about what Fisk truly knows when visiting Conrad's house. They question if Archie was a police informant under the alias Grass. They question Maeve's motivation for labeling Archie a traitor. They also wonder whether Conrad is losing control of things. We see a very awkward exchange between Serafina and Brandon as the latter tries to earn back Conrad's favor with his incredible business plan, but Serafina snubs him. Security has been strengthened when O'Hara and Harry arrive at the Cotswolds. Harry doesn't even mention Conrad's concern that they would have to respond due to Richie's action, which could spark a gang war. Rather, he pulls Conrad aside and tells him about his suspicion that Archie was a police informant. Conrad now claims that he needs evidence of Archie's purported interactions with the police. Maeve warned him that Archie was a traitor without providing any evidence. He leaves to handle the Eddie Tommy matter once more in the interim. Harry visits Richie's headquarters to convince him that he would deliver Tommy despite the fact that he has passed the deadline. Harry is threatened by Richie with harm to Gina, Harry's daughter, if he does not deliver Tommy to him. Harry gives a quick hello to Kevin, who has just arrived, before heading away. Conrad brings up the subject of Archie being a police informant when Kevin tells him that Bella isn't arriving because she's busy negotiating with Antoine. Conrad doesn't really know why he killed Archie, Kevin understands, but before they can talk about it more, Maeve enters. In another subplot, Eddie is encouraged to be a brat who snorts cocaine by Maeve. Conrad responds that he is still the family's shot caller when she informs him in the second scene that Eddie is a real Harrigan and that she had a crucial role in shaping the Harrigans into what they are today. At the conclusion of MobLand episode 2, Harry confronts Valjean and severely beats him until he tells Harry where Tommy is. When Valjean cannot take it anymore, he leads Harry to a hidden area of the club where Tommy's mutilated body is stored in a box. Kevin's house is blown to smithereens in the opening explosion of MobLand's third episode. Afterwards, Harry gets a call from Kevin alerting him that Richie is approaching and his impending arrival. Now that he has located Tommy's body, Harry asks Kevin to meet him near the yard and to bring Eddie along. Later, down in the yard, Harry joins up with Eddie and Kevin. He shows them Valjean, the club's owner, bound to a chair and battered. They have Tommy's remains as well, and his body is in a horrible state. The owner claims that Eddie requested Valjean to look after Huggy in return for 10,000 euros, but he was also instructed to deliver Tommy and Eddie back to the club together. But by the time Tommy came back, he had been stabbed several times and was dead, and Eddie had vanished from sight. Isabella now arranges for her father and Antoine to have a rendezvous. We already know that she is unhappy in her marriage, and Kevin's worries are confirmed when he says that she didn't even bat an eyelid when she was informed about the house explosion. Returning to Harry, he and Kevin appear to be planning Valjean's murder, but they both use an advantageous ploy to subdue him and cooperate in order to rescue his family. In particular, providing them with critical time to develop a more efficient strategy. Eddie reappears to Conrad's palatial residence, where he and Serafina are obviously maintaining their affection. Brendan is also present, and while they all talk about Eddie's antics, Maeve enters the room humming and complimenting Eddie. She also launches criticism at Serafina too. However, she fights back by reminding Maeve that she tied the knot into the family, so she doesn't seem like she has a place to claim here. Just as things become heated, Conrad and Serafina leave. Harry calls Richie and informs him of Tommy's condition. Richie is willing to torment Harry to the point of death when he gives him a bloodied Valjean in order to determine whether or not his made-up narrative is true. Bella gives Harry a telephone call and takes him to her hotel room. She discloses the blackmail event and acknowledges that she has made a mistake. Although Harry says he will take care of it, he briefly considers kissing her. He doesn't, but once Harry goes, he realizes that things will start to ramp up significantly.
Congratulations.
Received an anonymous call. It's about the location.
Thank you.
Are you a rich man?
Harry gets the surveillance tip of Lord Pennock from Antoine to start MobLand episode 4. Tommy Hardy's character, Harry, walks into Antoine's Gregor Collins sleeping bedroom. When Antoine wakes up, Harry's presence shocks him. Harry takes him to the edge of the bed. Antoine claims not to be aware of any memory stick. In order to save himself a week in the emergency room, Harry describes what he is planning to do to him and advises that he cooperate. Antoine hands him the memory stick after tentatively taking it out of a closet. Harry requests an exact replica. Antoine hands it to him after first denying its existence. He must avoid Bella Harrigan. Laura Power. Harry insists. Antoine concurs. When Antoine offers Harry £40,000, Harry acknowledges it and walks away. Harry pretends to be delighted and snatches it from him, shoves the heap of cash into his throat and walks away. Conrad Harrigan Pierce Brosnan is at the reservoir at Cotswold with his dog when he gets a call. Jan de Souza, portrayed by Joanne Froggatt, is awakened by Harry tapping on the window pane. With a muttered sneer, she proceeds to open her front door. At the garden, Kevin expresses worry that Valjean could break. Can't dare to gamble with that, according to Harry. Zosia, Jasmine Jobson, is currently focusing on fixing her vehicle in a garage when Donnie Alex Fine shows up and says he has some fantastic news for Harry. She says she doesn't know Harry. He writes down his phone number. Jan acts as though Harry is there during a session of counseling. She claims plenty has taken place, but she doesn't feel anything because she doesn't expect or get anything. Conrad calls Harry at the yard to see whether he got a call from Richie. Conrad gets to the Souza residence. Jan, who is taken aback by his presence, calls him and presents him to Alice. Alice departs after exchanging niceties. Conrad admits to her that he knows their marriage is not going well. In another scene, Harry tells Jan that Conrad will learn everything she says in the counseling session. She informs him about getting a visit from Conrad. He swears. In another scene, Luke Marbley's character D.S. Ivan Fisk exhorts Alice to approach Conrad. She demands they go slowly. Harry chastises Jan for her actions in the end. She wonders whether the Harrigans are the Taliban and denies any involvement. She will wish he was, he adds, when Conrad leaves. Later, Harry tells Bella that it's over and hands her the memory stick. She calls Antoine and insists on sticking on her agreement. Harry takes her phone. While Harry follows his instincts, Richie advises him to handle things with Valjean at the Monkey. Harry is given a rifle by Ollie Dunker, Arnold Ocean, who also displays a bruised and bleeding Valjean. Harry gives the rifle to Richie, relentlessly assaults Valjean with it, and smashes a concrete block in the process. He requests the location of the restroom and demands that the mess be cleaned up. Richie thinks Valjean killed Tommy. Harry later tells Kevin. Calling him a genius, Kevin gives gratitude to God. The Harrigans have been invited to Tommy's burial by Richie, according to Harry. The fifth installment commences with Kevin and Harry talking about Richie's idea to invite the family to the vigil and memorial. They are aware that it's a trap, but things are in motion and they can't stop it. Harry discloses his location, but Kevin doesn't mention it aloud. However, Conrad takes them to the Cotswolds for a warfare commission before they take any action. Eddie, in particular, has to exercise caution and refrain from excessive drinking if they attend. In addition, Harry has a backup plan and plans to sneak in some gear so they have someone to blame in case things go south. Marv has already begun intoxication as the funeral proceeds. Eddie asks Harry and Kevin if they can be trustworthy in an attempt to agitate them while they are traveling. Throughout the entire time Richie is speaking, Marv is constantly whispering in Conrad's ear. Though it definitely draws attention, Conrad wants her to remain silent in a murmur. While the wake is going on, Eddie sneaks upstairs. Harry is stopped in the middle when he returns downstairs and sees Richie looking straight through Conrad. However, Marv is the one who stirs up more trouble when she goes up to Vron. Marv resumes drinking after Vron makes a veiled reference about her appearance. At the conclusion of this episode, Conrad, Kevin, Harry, Richie, Ollie, and Charlie retreat to one of the Stevenson's palatial house's several rooms. Kevin and Harry are fully anticipating Richie to discuss Tommy's passing. In the rendezvous, Richie claims that he is fully aware that Eddie killed Tommy and it was not Valjean at all. However, as long as Conrad makes sure Eddie will never be discovered, heard, or seen solo in the UK, Richie is prepared to forget the entire ordeal. Afterwards, we witness Maeve recovering from her medically stimulated sleep. Thus, immediately after, she gives Paul instructions to put a bomb in Vron's car, and the next day, as soon as Vron starts the car, it causes a huge explosion like we have never seen. Vron is no longer alive. The gang war has officially begun because of Maeve, and Maeve and Eddie will be held accountable for the entire war.
We're damned if we go, and we're damned if
War. But if I see Eddie Harrigan,
MobLand's fifth episode focused on Tommy's vigil and the memorial services which Harry and the Harrigans attended. Paul apparently got the go-ahead to discreetly explode Vron's automobile and murder her after her dispute with Maeve. In MobLand's sixth episode, we see a distraught Richie seated alone with pictures of Tommy and Vron plastered on the backdrop behind him. Addressing the bombing, Conrad informs Harry and everyone else who believed Maeve was responsible. Serafina and Brendan negotiate a gems deal with Samuel and Leonard in a dinner in Antwerp. Serafina hopes to ensure that Brendan and she are not taken advantage of by the person selling them the rubies and gemstones. She begins acting impulsively and continues doing so despite Brendan's repeated warnings to calm down because he fears she will sabotage the business deal. To win the fight against Richie, Maeve devises a scheme and puts out a hit on Brendan and Serafina back in the Cotswolds. Maeve is prepared to put Brendan's life at danger and eliminate Serafina. Without thinking, Richie falls for the ruse and gives the Mexican the order to pursue Serafina and Brendan in Antwerp. The ruby trade, which is taking place in a warehouse outside of Antwerp, appears to be proceeding without incident. Following Serafina's confirmation that the rubies are flawless, money is sent, and a deal is finalized. Nevertheless, semi-automatic mercenaries assault them. Brendan drenches his trousers. Although they are besieged, Serafina tries to flee. The scene cuts to Harry riding his stolen 1000cc superbike to the warehouse rendezvous. But before he can get there to save them, the screen goes black. IMO, Maeve has caused more harm than good at Cotswold. Maeve gave Paul instructions to put a bomb in Vron's car, eliminating Richie's wife and coming closer than ever to start a gang war. She then put out a hit on Brendan and Serafina. Let's jump into action and see what happens in episode 7.
Me, that wouldn't have happened. So the lesson.
Thanks for coming.
Where are you going?
Boss.
Harry's failure to get to the storage facility on time becomes apparent at the beginning of MobLand's 7th episode. Brendan has been carried away along with Serafina by the criminals. Harry notices that the assailants are not from Richie's crew or the Mexican cartel, but rather the Moroccan outfit El Yofsi, who apparently took over the task from Jane. Unfortunately, Harry arrived at the scene too late to halt the attack. We haven't had much from Eddie since annihilating Tommy. Eddie now turns his amorous attention to Gina, and Gina now considers Eddie's approaches after previously wanting nothing to do with the Harrigans. However, Eddie chats to Gina outdoors about how sentiments are reciprocated. They ultimately connect in the van after that. As all of this is happening, Harry, the one-man army, finds the UFC gang leader, enters their base of operations, and eliminates a large number of guards by himself. Maeve got a message from Richie verifying that he has Brendan and Sarah. Conrad demands to see the text, But Maeve obviously cannot provide proof of having received the text message since it was all a facade. Serafina and Brandon are still breathing, luckily, but they are both restrained in a deserted warehouse. The cartel's commander and capo, Jaime Lopez, wants to start working on them. Serafina offers twice what Richie is paying in an attempt to negotiate their way out of this. Jaime declines her offer, claiming that Conrad is no longer the leader he once was. Richie phones and arranges a conference call with Harrigan's, forcing Kevin, Conrad, and Maeve to watch as they completely destroy Brendan's right shoulder with the lethal chainsaw. The call ends abruptly before Serafina may experience the same outcome. It turns out that Harry was able to halt the killings by making a few of his own crucial calls in time to save Sarah. Through his connection, he was able to communicate with an apparently powerful person named Kat, and consequently, he became immediately indebted to her for pulling such quick strings. What Kat said to Jaime to halt the execution is unknown to Harry and to us and to the Harrigans at Cotswold. However, he persuaded Kat to help him out. Asking Kat for such a significant favor at such crucial time is certain to cost Harry dearly. Kat, another power-hungry mafia member that MobLand has introduced to us, has the potential to take over the London underworld that the Stevensons and Harrigans are battling for.
We've got heat on us like never before.
See?
The rain stops, and I hollered to all the neighbors.
Tell Cat.
MobLand's 8th episode opens with Conrad and Maeve thinking back on Brendan's path and their hopes for the kid. Now that he has experienced the receiving end of a chainsaw, everything has fallen apart. Kat now owes Jaime Lopez a huge favor for saving her life, while Serafina is still in shock but has been dropped off with Harry. Maeve looks on disdainfully from the upper window as Harry and Serafina come back to the castle. In the midst of all this, Maeve appears and displays odd empathy for Serafina. She gives her a hug and reassures her that she is a Harrigan since she attempted to save Brendan. She also pledges that they will exact revenge for his passing. Harry tells Conrad that he had to make an alliance with Cat McAllister. He keeps his cards close to the vest, but Conrad isn't exactly pleased and asks Harry how he knows Cat. He merely discloses that he was asked to transfer over and work with her 2 years ago, but he declined. Conrad immediately gets back to business, asking Harry to set up a meeting with him to discuss the fentanyl and the connections to Jaime Lopez. Harry informs Freddy that the king is dead while they are traveling to this scheduled meeting. He is aware that Maeve is the one pulling the strings and that Conrad isn't in command. We don't know yet who the true mole is working against them, but Freddy is aware of it. Freddy is instead thrown off the roof by Harry, who then goes to talk to Kat. Though Kat acknowledges that she is doing this for Harry, who now owes her 2 favors, she nonetheless accepts Conrad's requirements. When Fisk, Mukasha, and Colin arrive to visit Richie, they mention their desire to destroy the entire Harrigan enterprise. Richie will receive complete immunity in return, along with 10 years from the day of Conrad's conviction. The cops, however, make it apparent that they own him. Taking a gun, he kills Fisk and Mukasha by shooting them both. However, Colin, who is seated in the wings, tells him that Richie does in fact own the cops. Richie accepts their agreement after noticing this. Conrad wakes Eddie up for a crucial talk at the beginning of MobLand's 9th episode. Throughout all of this, Maeve has been treating Eddie like her most prized possession, believing that he will not only comply with her request, but also preserve all of her secrets. But perhaps after this betrayal, Maeve will begin to view Eddie differently and choose to trust Kevin instead. Bella coerces Paul into allowing her to travel to London by threatening him. Conrad is unable to stop Bella from setting up a meeting with Antoine, Lord Pennock, Home Secretary Shuri Sharma, and Yusuf Kali Khalil Hamid because he becomes preoccupied with his appointment with Jane. Rasby attempts to deceive Kevin into believing that his memories of his stay at the juvenile prison facility are inaccurate. He also attempts to emotionally control Kevin by discussing Jesus and children, not realizing that the last one is a delicate subject for him because Eddie is most likely not Kevin's son. Ultimately, this leads him to shoot Rasby in the head. Harry tells Conrad that Jane has been persuaded to meet with Conrad at Archie's Arms by Kat. Additionally, Harry shares the number of Richie's fentanyl enterprise that he has been doing with Jane, which he obtained from Freddy before his death. After learning that Jane is sending 5 individuals to the meeting, Conrad says he will accompany Harry, Serafina, Paul, and 2 of their guards in order to equal that number. Since Alice isn't in a position to hurt or injure anyone, Harry doesn't make a big deal out of it when Jan tells him that she will be joining the Harrigan family for dinner. In their talk, Maeve threatens Gina to avoid Eddie. It is also possible that Eddie has already fallen in love with Gina and is prepared to support the D'Souza's, particularly following his possibility fallout with Conrad and Maeve, and that his cautionary message to Gina is too little too late. Conrad was already skeptical of Harry's intentions to move sides, and Jane's remarks have further strengthened his suspicions. He did disclose to Freddy that he and Kevin intended to occupy London. It's unclear what type of favors Kat expects Harry to perform for her, and his true relationship with Kat is also unknown. Jane phones Harry at the end of MobLand episode 9 and tells him that once he eliminates the rat in Team Harrigan, the deal is on. Harry responds to Serafina's question about what Jane was discussing by stating that Jane is open to shaking hands with the Harrigans over the fentanyl business without bringing up the subject of the rat. Alice shows up before Harry and Conrad get a chance to talk about any of these, and this results in one of the most embarrassing dinner situations ever. No one notices that Alice has been gone for too long because Maeve and Conrad are too preoccupied with their argument about her telling the police where Archie's body was and Serafina and Brendan's position in Antwerp to Richie, and Serafina, Eddie, and Jan are too preoccupied with that argument. Harry alone is the one who notices this situation. Interestingly, Harry did nothing to dissuade Alice from planting evidence, likely the pistol that Richie used to murder Fisk and Bukasha after he caught her red-handed. Tatazol and the police enter and take Conrad and Maeve into custody when he lets her go.
Mister, don't mean I do a favor.
So you know how to keep out of the way. No one told me, but I've tried really hard with his head till he became a monster.
Kevin is surrounded by blood splatters as he shouts about his chaotic existence to Rasby's lifeless body in the opening scene of MobLand's 10th episode. Here, it is confirmed that Conrad, not Kevin, is his father. He has made every effort to maintain his composure, but it has all gotten to be too much for him. As Kevin sends his men in to clean up and get rid of Rasby's body, Harry arrives and gets back together with him. Harry is waiting for O'Hara at the pier. Once they finally drive down there, she turns out to be the family's true mole. She has been using fentanyl and leaking information to the enemy for more than a year while working with Richie. However, Harry uses her to reach Richie and put an end to this battle before it's too late, since he does trust her. When everything is said and done, one of these families, the Stevenson or Harrigans, may end up controlling the entire game since Conrad and Maeve are incarcerated, so they must act swiftly. While Conrad is incarcerated, Kevin visits him and informs him that O'Hara is their rat. He continues by telling Conrad that as the head of the family, he is going to make significant changes and alter the Harrigan name to reflect his own preferences. Concurrently, Maeve talks to Eddie and urges him to murder Harry before pursuing Serafina. Eddie chokes her out and nearly kills her when Bella apologizes to him for what occurred with Conrad, but Harry's people stop him with a quick punch to the stomach. Kat calls Serafina in the interim and proposes that they work out an agreement and talk about the future. Alice is deceived by Colin, who has his men drag her and remove her. At O'Hara's office, Richie's guys arrive and wait for Harry. He waits and then pulls the trigger, destroying Richie's office and all of his guys in the process. While the few remaining Harrigans dash into the woods, an additional party arrives at the safe house and is also struck. When Harry and Kevin arrive at Richie's pub, Kevin shoots O'Hara and then Richie without hesitation. In Alice's car, Harry and Kevin also find the tape of the fabricated evidence which they may use to free Conrad and Maeve. When Harry arrives, Kat extends an invitation to him. She needs his intelligence in order to eliminate all of the Harrigans in a single blow. He will become an adversary if Kat doesn't play ball. Devoted to the Harrigans to the end, Harry reprimands her and leaves. Harry, meanwhile, gets back together with Gina and Jan. They end up fighting over the future and what has been going on, so it's far less affectionate than the reconciliation we just witnessed. With the knife still in his torso, Harry dismisses it and lounges, joking that he now had all of his focus. Conrad is the prison's mafioso capo and he enjoys the cheers as he appears ready to retake his kingdom, and that marks the end of this season.